Hey everyone, check this ebook out I just penned recently. It's called Riding the Waves of Bitcoin. So it's a very interesting book. I'm going to talk to you about this. See, Riding the Waves of Bitcoin. It's a longer video here. I'm going to go over this book. You can read it for free. I'll put links in it below. You can tell me what you think. So, Bitcoin, right? Riding the Waves of Bitcoin, a dollar cost average and pivot point trading guide. It's on Kindle. Welcome to the frontier of finance, a landscape of dynamic and potentially rewarding as it is often perceived as volatile. The world of Bitcoin, BTCUSD cryptocurrency. You've picked up this ebook that you can read for free because you recognize the transformative potential of this digital asset, or perhaps you're intrigued by the stories of its rise and its dramatic dips and volatility. Regardless of your current level of understanding, you're likely seeking a more grounded, strategic approach to navigating this exciting yet sometimes turbulent blockchain terrain. Again, Riding the Waves of Bitcoin. Here, I'll let you see the title up here. See this? You can read it for free. So I'm going to do a teaching on how I trade and speculate in Bitcoin. So it's a bundle, all right, it's a combination of dollar cost averaging, right, and pivot point trading. So it's a combo. So every 2 weeks, like on the 1st and 15th, I'll purchase Bitcoin on a fixed dollar amount and I dollar cost average it, let's say $100, right, on the 1st and 15th. I don't care about the price. I just, throw caution to the wind. And then every day I set my pivot points on Bitcoin. And I'll put links below on how I do this. I hope you can hear me well. So first things first, let's look at the risk disclaimer. All right, risk disclaimer, not financial advice, information, education only, do your own research, accuracy, okay, fast moving nature of markets, no guarantee, so this is what we have. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Any mention of any potential gains are purely illustrative and not a guarantee of profits. So now that I've done the risk disclosure again, and that's in my video description, and then also on the ebook has a risk disclaimer also too. So again, riding the waves of Bitcoin. I mean, I've been a quant trader on Wall Street. Okay, I started off my career in 1987, so I'm old school, and I've been a quant trader since, for 40 years. So I got a lot of experience. And so this is how I trade Bitcoin. And so this system, it's not uncommon for it to produce 100 winning tradings in a row. And then the DCA kicks in also too, the dollar cost average. So I can't, you're riding the wave. It fluctuates in price, and then you're able to put the DCA process into effect in combination with the pivot points. So I'm going to explain this to you here. I'm going to show you a chart so you can see this visually, and I'll put also the link for my Kindle book that you like here, that you can read it for free on Kindle. It's priced at $2.99. Why stand in line and take a seminar for $5,000 to try to learn how to trade Bitcoin when you can just read my ebook for free? So check this out. Here's a chart. We're going to look at this real quick. All right. So I'll expand this out. This is Bitcoin on a 15-minute chart. So I'm going to show you my system. This is a 100% antithesis trade. It's the opposite of the Jesse Livermore trading system. So I'll explain more of this in a moment. Jesse Livermore was one of the most active and prolific day traders back in the early 19th century and earned vast fortunes trading, and then went bust out 4 or 5 times only to, earn it all back again. So I just want to show you what my system did here. And this is going back, the date here is like on the 26th of April, just a couple, 2 days ago. So I'm always in the Bitcoin market. I own the position. And the 2 parts of the Livermore system that I do like is you won't know a market until you're in it. So I'm always in the Bitcoin market. I don't sit in cash and then wait, for the best time to purchase and then go all in. I always own Bitcoin. And again, owned it for well over 10 years. And so every day I set my pivot points. So here's a 15-minute chart, market dips. Livermore would short here, then the market goes lower. I do the opposite, so I bought the dip here, and I'll give you the prices. I don't care about the price either, so I'm just a liquidity provider. So this is, if you're trading and you get stopped out or you have the margin call, I don't use stop orders and I don't use margin. So I buy the dip here, and then look, then I sold here. So to give you an idea of pricing in the market, again, it's not financial advice, info only. 71,400. Then look, it dips to 70,875. Then I sold the market at 72,500. So it was a nice trade. Now here's the thing though, like I used negative progression. So I bought the dip, let's say purchase $100 here, and then on the retracement I purchased $200. So the lower the price goes, the more I purchase. That's the opposite of the Livermore system. This is where Livermore would purchase the market, probably here on a pivot point breakout, but I'm always in the market here. So then I sold here, and then look, it went higher. So it happens, but I still own Bitcoin net. So let's look at the next trade cycle. I'll move this over here. Look, I'll move it slowly so you can see this. So then the Bitcoin is here at like 76,000, and then my system goes along the market on the pivot point dip here on this wick low at 73,300, we'll say. And then look, it exits here. So how many point trading profit is that? 73,300 up to 75,500. That's a couple thousand points. And then it goes back in the market, buys the dip at the pivot point, and then look. I bought the dip at the pivot point at 74,882, and then exited the market at, we'll say 77,500. So how many points was that? 74,008 to, that's a couple thousand point trade there. And this happens to me all the time. Now, my system exited here, and then I didn't get the top of the market, but that's a couple thousand points. And this, again, this transpires over and over and over again. Then look, system is out of the market, and then I set my pivot points and I wait for the retracement. I'll move it slowly, look. As it dips in price, it'll put me back into the market sometime. So look, so far it's a couple thousand point dip. And then let's see when it purchases it, right here. So the pinnacle of the market here is at 78,343. First leg in is at 75,000. So that's a couple thousand point price retracement. Then I go back into the market at the pivot point, and look, it goes up from here, from 75,000 to 76. That's about 1,200 points, but then reverses, and then it'll purchase more at a lower price, hopefully, right? Look, I'm in here, it dips even further, so it went against me. And then I added to my position here at 75,785. 5. It didn't purchase here at the lowest price, but it purchased here at 75,000, then paid a higher price, went back in here at the pivot point at 75,757 approximately, and then what? Let's see what happens. Then it pumps, look, huge pump up here to 78,000, and look, then it exits the market at 78,700. So I'll scrunch this up so you can see it. And I'm all in right now. I have no open orders because I've been buying the dip. So here I'll minimalize this for you so you can see the trades. Look, I bought the dip here. It went against me. No stop order, no margin call. Then I added to the position here at the pivot point. The market dips again and then goes up to the pump here. So how many points is that? That's 75,000 and then 75,600 and then exits at 78,500, we'll say. So that's 1,000. I don't even add up the points. I don't care what price I pay for it. I just know that I do the opposite of Livermore. I purchased here and I didn't put my stop order in. I don't use stops. I didn't get the margin call on the dip. So I purchased here, market pumps, take a couple thousand points out of it. Wash, rinse, and repeat. Again, you can read my ebook. Ready? Riding the Waves of Bitcoin, a dollar cost average and pivot point guide. Again, it's a combo or bundle of both. So, look, I exited here, took a couple thousand point profit out of it. Now let's see what happens. When does it put me back in? Market dips at the pivot point. I'm here at 70,800. In my system, it didn't exit at the absolute top of the market. It didn't purchase the low here. It purchased here at the pivot point. It purchased here at the pivot point and went lower. Well, the same thing is true in my exits. You know, I didn't get the absolute top price, but I don't know. Would you be delighted as a trader if you could earn several thousand points in a row every trading cycle? So look, it put me back in the market here on the dippy dip at the pivot point. What happened? Back into the market here at the pivot point. All right. Then back in here even lower than the pivot point. Let's see. And then I exited here at 79,400. So I'll scrunch this up so you can see it, the chart. Ready? Look, on this trading cycle, I exited here. Okay, I didn't get the top price. Then I bought the dip, bought the dip, bought the dip here, like 1, 2, 3 trades. And then each time here when I purchased more. This is where you're being stopped out. This is where you're having the margin calls right here. It causes a liquidity event. So I bought the dip here. You can see the arrow here. I bought the dip again. And then even lower, it dipped even further. And again, I give you an example. It's like I purchased $100 here, $200 here if it's lower in price, and then $300 here at 77,200. And then look, market pivots up from here. How many points is that? That's, 77,000 to 7,500. That's a couple, 4,000 points. I don't even add the dollars up with the point profit. Now this one I did a little better. It took me out at the top of the market. Look, and then what happens? So I go back into cash, not completely, I'm always in the market, I own it. And then look, it buys a dip, a 2,000 point dip here from 79,000 where I exited, bought the dip, and now look what happens. Look, now I bought the dip again at a lower price. So it's like $100, now $200 purchase. So this is where you have your stop orders and your margin call here and here. So I bought more and more, and now look, it goes lower. And so here we are. I sold at the top of the market, took 3 trading cycles in a row where I showed you several thousand point profit, and now I'm all in. You can see I have no open orders, and Bitcoin can go to zero. It's now here it dipped to 75,600. It could go to zero and I'd lose 100%. It's possible. So now I wait for the pivot. So it pulls this type of behavior and goes from here and then up to here, and I get several thousand point profit. Well, when does that happen? I have no idea, but I earn enough. This system produces for myself in excess of 100,000 points in trading profit per annum, per year. And again, I've been a quant trader since, like I said, since 1987. So I do take the components of the Livermore system, which is you won't know a market until you're in it. And whenever I had the patience to wait for the pivot points, I always made money in my operations. See, this is where Livermore would be shorting the market here and here and here. So he's right, because it's trending down. But I do the opposite, and again, no stop orders and no margin. So that kind of completes my presentation just on the charting. And I don't use charts. Livermore doesn't use charts. I just wanted to show it to you visually. Now with this also too, with these pivot points, I can't emphasize it's a bundle. I do the pivot point trades, limit GTC orders. It's comparable to hunting. Not that I'm supporting hunting animals, but if a hunter, what I do is I set my hunting traps and I wait for the price retracement. Here I got a hunting trap. This is where the margin call and liquidity event transpires. 2 more hunting traps went off here, and then more hunting traps here. So now I'm all in on this price retracement. And then on the 1st and 15th, put $100 a month every 2, once on $100 on the 1st of the month, and then $100 on the 15th of the month. Everyone's different. And then in combination of the pivot point trading and then setting my hunting traps at the pivot points, I'm able to accumulate Bitcoin at better prices as everyone else is margin called here or stopped out, and I'm backing the truck up and buying the dip through this retracement. So that's my trading plan. Tell me what you think. I run at about 18 minutes on this video. Look, riding the waves of Bitcoin. See, the wave dips from here, dips down in price, goes back up again, and then you have another dip here and then it goes back up again. So it's a bundle, combo. Ride the waves of Bitcoin with me. You can read my ebook, A Dollar Cost Average Process, DCA, and pivot point guide. Simple. I don't count the dollars and I don't count the points, and I just set it, forget it, and then it takes about, I would say this takes about 5 minutes worth of process every day, just setting the pivot points every day and just letting the market come to me at my hunting traps. Tell me what you think. Again, I'll put the links in there for riding the waves of Bitcoin, and tell me what you think. And then it's a great trading process that I've learned as a quant trader, and you can participate too and tell me what you think. Riding the waves of Bitcoin, dollar cost averaging and pivot point trading guide, your Kindle edition. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.